Okay, thank you.
Kristen Polachek, okay. Who else is on there? We got another one.
Star 6 to unmute. End user.
April from BW Paper Systems. It wouldn't let me unmute at first, so I apologize. I was trying to raise my hand.
No problem. It's a little bit echoey. Who did you say again? Sorry.
April.
April. Okay.
And then we have one more. Oh,
How do you know?
Like I said, Price County LEPC.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay, I can continue the roll call unless you'd like to.
Go ahead.
Go on. Okay. Philip Bachler, Ian Fisher, Jeff Hallstrand,
Here.
Jason Hastings,
Here.
Darla Isham, Roxanne
Kahan.
Kahan,
Here.
April Madrano,
Yep, she's online.
online. Okay. Marvin Nevelier. I'm sorry. Marvin, are you on remote? Tiffany Palachuk,
I'm here.
Kristen Palachuk,
She's
I'm
online.
online. Kathy Parpart, Roger Petrick, excused. Doug Rasmussen,
Here.
here.
Yeah, but we've got somebody from Highway.
Vance. What was your last name? Sorry. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
We have a quorum.
we have enough. Okay, we're good. All right, communications and announcements? You got anything to talk about?
I do not, just to remind folks, we have the governor's conference in March, 10th through the 12th.
Okay. Everybody would have received the minutes for the October meeting. We would need a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, Jeff, need a second? Okay, second.
By Kathy.
Kathy?
And by the way, we've got a new county clerk, just to say hi. This is Meredith. Hi, Meredith. So if you could just say your name when you make a motion, that would help her.
Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, moving right along. Review of the bylaws.
So in the bylaws, when we discussed at the last meeting, some of the changes that we were looking at making. If you go to page 2 under Article 4, officers, it was discussed in the October meeting to make these positions, chair and vice chair, evergreen positions. And so I just changed the verbiage to indicate that, and that they would notify the Secretary of LEPC in advance, so that we are prepared for the next meeting to put somebody in that position. And then under number 4, we had it where we would typically do the elections in April, either odd or even years. But we've just changed, just removed the word April. And then under Article 5, Emergency Response Authority, I just wanted to make very clear, because it's one of the requirements for our grants, that we designate a compliance inspector. And we have elected to have the state as our Emergency Response Commission as our EPCRA compliance inspector. And then I just took out the word shall. And then on the back, I'm sorry, page 4, under the amendment and rules, these should have been sent out 30 days in advance of the meeting, but since we discussed it at the last meeting, and I forgot about the 30 days, I included, and we can change this however you wish the verbiage to be. So bylaws may be amended at any full meeting of the LEPC by a vote of members present, and provided that these proposed amendments to these bylaws are submitted to the members in writing at least 30 days in advance of the meeting, if not discussed during a previous meeting, is how I indicated that, or we can say it however we want. Any objections or want to change how that's read?
So this is providing that there's a quorum at the meeting?
Yeah, it can only happen at a quorum any motions that need passing have to have a quorum. And our January is typically our annual business meeting, which is where we get the approval to do all the grant things and make changes to the bylaws. And these are requirements that fall within the grant requirements. Anybody else want any other changes to the bylaws? Anybody doesn't want these changes to the bylaws? We do need to approve the bylaws, yes.
Okay, we'll need a vote to approve the bylaws as you've seen the changes here. We have a motion by someone to accept these changes.
I can make a motion.
Okay,
In your name?
Jason Hastings.
Jason. All right, we have a second to that.
I'll second it.
Okay, who was that?
And that was April.
Madrano?
April?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Moving right along. Election of chairperson.
And I think since we've made the changes to the bylaws that we should elect our chair and vice chair at this meeting.
Okay,
So I think you know the routine.
we need a
Nominations for the chairperson for LEPC.
I would make a nomination of Doug Rasmussen, the chair.
okay, the motion is made for Doug Rasmussen to be chair. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations?
I move that we unanimously elect Doug Rasmussen as the chair for our LEPC.
Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. You need a
Aye.
second.
I'll
Aye.
second.
Oh, we need a second on that?
I'll second.
Jason.
Oh, Jason, okay. Jason second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Vice chair.
Anyone want to be vice chair? It cannot be me, by the way. I'm already the secretary and the information officer.
Who's Brian's, who's vice chair now? Brian?
Well, it was,
It was,
yes.
oh, okay.
Um,
So we need a new one.
Michelle
Okay.
Michelle
Yeah, Michelle was. our-
Edwards was our vice chair. I nominate Jeff Hallstrand.
I'll second.
We have to go for additional. Do you accept the nomination?
Sure.
It's
Okay.
pretty painless. You need,
Okay, motion been made to Jeff Hallstrand be,
you need to ask for additional nominations.
okay. All right, do we have any other nominations for vice chair? Any other nominations for vice chair? Any other nominations?
What
for
does it
vice chair?
entail?
running the meeting when the chairperson isn't here. Are you interested, April?
Sure. If if Jeff doesn't want it. That is.
It doesn't matter to me, so, yeah, I could take it.
Okay, well, either way.
Okay, so
He
we
was
had,
nominated first. I will let him do it.
oh, okay. All right. So Jeff, you're resigning your nomination or your,
You're going to be, we've had 3 nominations for vice chair
yep.
with a motion for Jeff Hallstrand.
Nominations and look, motion to cast the unanimous ballot.
Okay, we close the nominations for vice chair, and we're looking for a motion for unanimous ballot.
I'll make a motion.
Motion's been made for unanimous ballot for Jeff. We have a second? Second?
I'll second.
Kathy? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion's carried. Jeff, welcome to the club. All right.
Seems like I've been here for 25 years.
Yeah.
Seems that way. All right. Approval of the membership list.
So if you look at the top of your agenda, that is who we currently have for members. And that's what I would submit to the county board for appointment. And then if those are appointed, then we send that list to the state and they approve the appointment. I did talk with Austin at the radio station, and he would be willing to represent us under media if it's all right with his boss, Darla. And I haven't heard back. So, and then I've also left a message for Tom at the newspaper to see if we could maybe get more than one person for media under that. But as of now, the people that are listed on the top of the agenda would be who would be submitted to the county board. Is there anybody that wants to be added or taken off?
Should we maybe make an assumption and add Austin on there, being as we haven't seen Darla in years?
Well, she checked in October. She was online in October.
I can't see her opposing it.
No, but I need to get the official word from her.
We
to,
can always add her later.
And Austin can act as her alternate. So, and or maybe we can submit this with the option to change Darla.
We can add them at any time.
Yeah, we can. And as a reminder for all of the members, please have an alternate so that we can make sure that we have quorum, because they do have full voting rights at our meetings.
Does our alternate have to be listed anywhere?
It just for our benefit, so we know who's coming and can typically expect. Because Vance has stepped in for highway quite a bit, and as long as we know who the alternate is, and it just is helpful, and we can include them on the email if we need to. But otherwise, we leave it to you to notify your alternate about what the packet might entail. So, do I have a motion?
Do we need a motion for
Yeah,
that?
we need to approve the list to be
Okay.
submitted to the county board.
To recommend
Well-
for county board,
Okay, we need a motion to,
you're recommending this.
I would make a motion to recommend this list to the county board for approval.
okay. Do we have a second? That was Jeff.
Tiffany will second.
I will second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the list?
Aye.
Aye.
Right. Opposed? Okay, it is approved.
Could I have a quick question? Was that Tiffany for second or was it
Yeah.
April?
I-
Okay.
I
Thanks.
Almost ahead of April.
All right. Number 7, approval of off-site facility list. I think everybody has a list here in front of them. in their
So
little
we have 11. We're required to do 10 or 10% of the amount of, oh, Marvin just joined us. Hi, Marvin. So we just do all of them every year. But we put that we will do at least 10 so that we meet our grant requirements. And this is the facilities in Price County. And then if you look on Appendix B, those are the extremely hazardous substance, which is the EHS at the facilities. I am also looking at the ones that have the sulfuric acid are typically because they have batteries that are used in their forklifts, and we may be able to get them off this list. And I'm checking into it because it has to do with the amount of actual sulfuric acid in the battery total, because it's not 100%. It's just a portion of the batteries that are sulfuric acid. And if you look at those numbers and run a particular formula, it actually comes under the threshold, the quantity of threshold. So still checking on that. So the list may or may not get smaller in the future. But for this year, this is what we're working with. And when we make these offsite plans, it is from the previous year, just so you know. That's why well 5, that's been offline for a while. But it is still showing up, or at least it did down. We submit these plans in Whoppers. It's a Wisconsin Hazard Reporting Offsite Plans. It's just a web page or a gathering information to upload to. And fire departments, this is where they can also get the information. The facilities submit the information that's required in the, and then I take that information and make our offsite plans from that information. So, and we do this every year. So, but we do need to approve, like we don't have 230 of them. We only have these. So we typically just do all of them. Do I have approve the list?
I've seen the list here. We need a motion to accept.
We can't hear you, Doug. We can't hear you.
All right. Okay. You've all heard seen the list. We have a motion to accept the
Offsite facility
offsite
list.
facilities.
I'll make a motion to approve the offsite facility list as presented.
Okay. Do we have a second? Kathy? Okay, we have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Emergency management report.
No hazardous spills since our last meeting. Our 2025 EPCRA computer and hazmat response equipment grant, I'm sorry, it would be the 2024, has been submitted for closeout. It's waiting approval. And the 2025 EPCRA planning and administrative grant has been submitted. I should have probably put those dates. So it's 2024 computer and hazardous response equipment grant and the 2025 planning and administrative grant. And then every year, this is an ongoing thing, is our, I should maybe talk about those grants at one of these meetings too. So some of the things that's required for the grants is to make sure that we have submitted our offsite plans and a countywide strategic plan in Whoppers. And that within those plans, we have identified traffic routes, delivery routes, whether or not we have restrictions on our highways where they can be delivered or not delivered or traveled on, modes of transportation. At one point we used to have molten sulfur run down our rail lines, and we don't have that anymore. But so it's mainly highway. Anyway, so those are some of the requirements for those grants. In addition, we have a countywide APP, which is an integrated preparedness plan. And 2024 was the first year where we put something together. And so some of the areas for this program was for continuity of operations, the role of an elected officials, and develop a countywide crisis communications and resident outreach strategy. So one of the things that they want in this particular plan, it's called POETI elements, and that's planning, organization, equipment, training, and exercise. So in 2024, Melissa did the heavy lifting on the continuity of operations. She's working to make sure that each department is putting together a list of what do you need if something goes wrong for equipment or staff. And then what are your processes and contacts and vendors and so on. So she's been doing, the heavy lifting on that. And we have some of the other things. So for the planning on that one, we decided, go ahead and create something that is ongoing. And then in 2025, we're going to continue just to develop this and maybe develop a policy that requires annual update of the county COOP plan once it's developed fully. And then in 2024, we reviewed and are hoping to complete those. The equipment part of things, we haven't really determined because we don't have all the information. And I say I'm truly saying that it was Melissa. And then the department heads submitting the information to her to bring it all together. And then we talked about conducting shelter exercise, or at least potentially training folks. And as you know, it's hard to find volunteers, and they would be coming from quite a distance away. Initially, our staffing in the county would have to set these shelters up. So we met with the Red Cross, who would be our shelter managers, excuse me, and they would be this year going to train our staff, at least give them the ideas and the tools of what they would need in order to set it up until someone from Red Cross was able to take over the facility. So then, as far as roles for elected officials.
Roxy, I have a question about facilities.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm gonna list Nick on this question as well, but about a year and a half ago, the Phillips School had put in for some type of grant. And I believe they were awarded that to where they're gonna do an addition and we're gonna have a secondary 911 center up there, and it would be a fallout shelter, so to speak, or shelter for this. Is there any status on that project? Anybody knows anything?
I have not heard anything other than, again, I believe they were awarded it. And that's our priority 3 was a countywide strategic or a crisis communication and citizen outreach. And that there were a couple of elements to that. And one of it is to, make sure that when they're building that, because part of their reason they got it was because, that was an element to their receiving the money.
I believe we are allocated some ARPA funds to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just, huh? Yeah, I just wondered if you'd heard a status update on that building or anything, but.
No, but that would be, and right now, all of our schools are designated emergency shelters. And again, we met with the Red Cross. Now, the Red Cross has gone through some reorganization, and our main contact for disaster response is out of Eau Claire. And there used to be two, and now there's just one. So, and you can guess she's probably, if not her, then most of the Red Cross folks are out in California. So we're trying to get them up here again to help train for before they can even, well, they can train, but we need to do an updated shelter agreement with each of the facilities because there's been some remodeling going on. And so we want to make sure that the square footage and the location of what we say is going to be, here's where we're going to put our family reunification center. Here's where we're going to put our resource centers. Here's where we're going to put the sleeping, so in the feeding. All of the schools in the past have indicated that they would feed, that they have the kitchens in the facility and the staff, and they would be willing to do that, and that they could provide 24/7 sheltering and still have their school, classes continue. So then when we go through those shelter agreements, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for that, we don't want to disrupt school if it's in session. So we just want to make sure that those agreements and that they're ADA compliant, and if there's any questions about parking or where do they want us to set up or where can we set up, where's the best place to put a sign or whatever the needs might be for a shelter, is one of those things that we want to look at. And we're not going to necessarily wait until that particular addition to the Phillips shelter is created. We'll just revisit it once it's developed or built. But and that communication piece is part of that priority 3. The other part of that priority 3 was that we have a system called, well, not we, but it's nationwide, WPS and GETS, which is government emergency telecommunication systems. One is for landline, one is for wireless. WPS is wireless. And they've gone digital. So one of the things that'll need to take place this year is to make sure that the people that I have on my GETS list, which are the critical folks that we need in the county, and or responders to an emergency. So like the highway commissioners on there, the sheriff and fire services, EMS, and our chairperson, and Nick. And so there's a lot of different people that have access to this, but right now we need to make sure that, first of all, they do a double authentication. We need to make sure that that plays well with our double authentication program, and that they can get it downloaded onto their phones. And then we just need to practice how to use it. So that's part of that piece. And the other element that we were looking at is the code red. So every year we have a dam evacuation drill that we do for the Pixley Crowley dams. And we wanted to make sure that we have that list of people downstream of those dams on a code red list. And that piece last year for that exercise, we invited the people back that were actually there. Some of it seasonal, so there aren't folks in the homes, but we invited them back to the Fifield Hall is where we had the exercise. And we had the Salvation Army and the Red Cross there. And the Salvation Army provided the food for the attendees of the exercise and for the people that came back. And it was just to let them know this is what it would be like if you had to leave. And as you're hearing probably on the news with the fires, you don't get a lot of time. So it's better to have these things have your stuff ready to go, have your important documents, and do you have things for your pet? Do you know how to get out? What is your evacuation route? So, and highway plays, the sheriff's department, is all invited in part of these exercises. So those are our part of the outreach and the communication strategies that we're moving forward. And we'll just keep building on those until we feel that we've got them honed. Any other questions?
I just have one question. Who takes care of the Salvation Army now? Jean was in charge of that for years, and she passed away here a couple months ago, and I just wondered who took over her Salvation Army.
So when we had the Salvation Army come, they had their canteen there, and it's Kurt Spicer, and he's actually in the UP. But their canteen came out of Rhinelander. And the gentleman's name is escaping me right offhand. But when I talked with Kurt from Salvation Army, he had just recently mentioned that Phil Bockler is our local contact for that. So we do have a representative in the county that can speak to Salvation Army needs. And we're just hoping to get some Red Cross presence in the county too, so that if there's these residential fires, we find out about it, we call the Red Cross. It's a couple of hours by the time Red Cross gets here. And I know that we had an apartment fire at one time, and it took hours. It was 2 a.m, 2:30 by the time we got these people in their hotel rooms. So if we have a Red Cross presence in the county, if we had volunteers locally, so if you have ideas or you want to mention it to somebody, that says, I don't know what to do, or why don't you consider being a Red Cross volunteer? And they could respond to these house fires or disaster needs, so that they can be the go-between until additional help arrives. But so is there anything that you can think of that should be added to planning, organization, equipment, training, or exercises to help our county be more prepared?
Guys, got any comments, questions?
Does our public safety officers attend these meetings ever? Sheriff's Department, do they?
Yes. Well, we've got Nibble on now from Park Falls, and Mike has been attending, and some of Robert Hahn, Bob Hahn, and or Brian has made it to these. So it's hit and miss depending on what their jobs are, and that's why we have 3 in law enforcement on the list, so that at least one, hopefully can be attending, and same with the, representatives from some, various organizations, because they do want the LEPC to be a local emergency planning committee.
Yep.
They don't just want one person making these decisions. They want input from a broad section of the. So if you can think of somebody who you think would be great on this committee, then, let us know. We can always add them.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
Anything you want changed? Then I don't know if we need to approve it, but that's basically what we're looking at continuing to build off of in 2025.
Okay.
And then just a reminder of the Governor's Conference. It will be at the Oneida Hotel and Casino in Green Bay, March 10th through the 12th. They don't have their information up as far as what the pre-training would look like or who the speakers are going to be, but I can forward that on. That is paid by the committee. If you're willing to attend, there's an early bird fee of $275. Then it goes up if you're late. And they cover a variety of things. Tiff, are you attending this year? I think there's a public health element.
I haven't attended in the past. I will look into it. Michaela, believe went last year as our preparedness coordinator.
Okay. Yeah, and so it kind of gives you another idea of just meeting other people from other communities and what they've experienced. And so it's anyway, if you're interested, let us know and we'll make sure that you get signed up and get your reservations.
In the past, I know when I've attended, they've had some pretty good speakers on disasters that have happened in other areas. There was a couple of those fires down, I forget where it was that one year, and the fires went, through the whole town, basically under the streets, and caught everything on fire. And I mean, it was pretty interesting the way they had to deal with some of that stuff. I don't remember where that was offhand.
Oh, that was probably the Texas one. And then there was actually a an unknown hazmat response. Initially, it was just an unknown element. It was an explosion in an apartment complex, and it was just all this white powder around, and they thought, they thought it might have just come from the ceiling, but it turned out that this person was actually making they called it the unicorn chemical because it's just unheard of. And it goes off by pressure. So here they'd been walking on this stuff and it could have been kabooming any time so it became quite the ordeal as far as now. Not only do you have to get a bomb people in, how do you treat this, but now you have to evacuate not just the people in that complex, but how far could this blow? So it was like blocks of people that needed to be evacuated. Now all of a sudden you're feeding them, you're housing them, it was a sunny afternoon and then it wasn't. So it can change quickly. And again, like those wildfires that are going on, it can happen here. I think most communities in Wisconsin that in the northern part has seen some type of history of wildfire damage and how devastating it can be to a community. So
If anybody wants to go, just let you know and you can take care of it. All right. Next meeting, March.
we meet 3 times a year. It would be April the 3rd Wednesday, which I think is still the 15th. Am I right?
Yep, 15th. No, 16th.
Oh. Same place, same time.
Okay.
And if there's anything that you'd like to see on the agenda, and typically if there isn't anything that needs approving, which is why we try to cover so much in this meeting, we are subject to cancellation just because, not that I don't want to see y'all.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
So moved. All right, first or second or?
Something.
All
All
You
right.
can just adjourn as the chairman.
Okay, we're adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a good week.
Yep, you too.